when it comes down to those transition moments where it's time for me to go to another level, I look back and I was like, okay, we did it in this season, but how did we do it? Right. Now I bring those qualities of how we did it with me to the next season, and we start building on that.
Welcome to Shift, an exclusive podcast by DSN. I'm your host, Blake Mallen, and this is where high-performing entrepreneurs and experts share their most powerful shifts in mindset, skill set, and strategy to help you accelerate your business and amplify your impact. I challenge you to be present, open your mind, and let the shift begin. Welcome to Shift. I'm your host, Blake Mallen, and today we have the privilege of diving into the journey of a dynamic power couple. And yes, I said couple. This is a Shift show first. Both of them true trailblazers in the direct selling industry, a powerhouse world leader, and a dynamic businesswoman. And I'll warn you guys up front, I'm just getting to learn these two individuals, but they both radiate an amazing entrepreneurial spirits. So you're going to feel that today and set a true high standard of excellence in everything they do. From a corporate America background to becoming a stay-at-home mom turned six-figure earner in their first year in this channel. Their story is one of transforming adversity into triumph, and now have built direct selling businesses that have done billions of dollars in revenue. They believe in servant-driven leadership. They embody a mission of financial freedom and legacy building. Authors, speakers, mentors, their commitment to philanthropy and leadership have already touched so many lives, and we get to dive into the layers of their journey today. Please help me welcome to the show, absolute industry icons, Gregg and Lenika Scott. How are you guys doing today?
Hey, we're doing excellent, Blake. Good to see you, and thanks for having us on the show today.
Yes, we're doing amazing now that we're here with you in this podcast.
I love it. Well, I know this is the first time we're face-to-face, but I've been hearing your guys' names from so many of our previous guests. So thank you for taking time away from your family, your team to be here today. I'm super excited about our conversation.
Yeah, we're excited to be here as well. You know, I love this kind of platform because it's a platform we get the chance to touch so many people.
Well, before we get into your story, because I want you guys to share, I have to ask the question because it's staring right at me. Blue and blue. You guys, I went through some of the videos. I went through some of the videos online, and this can't be a coincidence. I saw like pink and pink. I saw like color and color. Like, is this a thing? Is this an everything intention thing all the time? Or is this like pure luck? How does this work? I want the honest answer.
This is pure luck, right? This is after 30 years of being together. I'll get dressed first, or she'll get dressed. Yeah. And when we pop up on each other, we happen to have on the same color.
Yes, right. Now today, though, I will say, for the sake of this podcast, I said, okay, he's already rocking a blue shirt. Let me go ahead and find something in my closet that's also blue. For today.
Okay, so I see how this works. So for Gregg, it's random, it's synchronicity. For Lenika, it's strategic and intentional. Okay, I see how this dynamic works. Lenika, I know you didn't plan the background Pantone though, right? Because your background is matching the eye color, is matching the shirts. You guys are glowing right now. I love it. I respect it. Well, you guys, let's dive into the story. We got, stay-at-home mom, now business mogul. You guys have done crazy things for a long time in the industry. I'm sure it didn't start this way for you. Tell us your story.
Gregg and I, because we have been blessed with so many children, right? We changed diapers for 15 years. Imagine that. So all girls, we, had the girls. And so I was in and out of work. And while I was in and out of work in corporate America, which my major is biology, chemistry, and I was an analyst in a pharmaceutical company, I always wanted to be there for our girls. And it was after baby number 5, after this cycle just kind of repeated itself, I said, that's it. Gregg and I was actually working at the same pharmaceutical company at that time. And he agreed, yeah, that's fine. come home, work from home. And it was this industry. And I just remember just getting in there like, I'm going to make this thing work. I remember seeing other stay-at-home moms and other moms that were doing it. They had retired their husband, zip codes were changing. And I had such a belief in me. If they could do this, then I could do it too. I am going to figure out a way to get this thing done and to make it happen. And so in our first year, which you've already shared, we hit 6 figures in the industry, and then it created such a belief for Gregg, like, oh, this stuff worked. Because at first it was like, you go ahead and do that thing. I support you while I work my real job, right? But it became so real when the checks not only came in, but the checks were also consistent.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, so my introduction to this industry was completely different, right? It was through Lenika that I got introduced, because I grew up very rural and never knew anything about network marketing, direct sales industry. And, you know, when Lenika got started in it, she wanted to do some things. I was like, what is that? You know? But very quickly, when she did start making income, yes, it got my attention. I was like, let me see that paperwork again. I need to know what this thing is all about. So that was my introduction.
I love it. Did I hear all girls?
Yes.
Yeah. And see, I said, I know he's going to dive into that one. Yeah.
How many?
All
I
girls.
heard big and I heard all girls. How many?
Yes,
6.
6 girls.
Greg. 6 daughters and Lenika in the household.
Wait.
Give us some guidance, brother. Give us some guidance here. What? Please impart some wisdom.
And a girl dog, right? Who was not planned. We just got her. She is so cute. White little Maltese and Shih Tzu mix, right? And then guess what? 2 granddaughters.
Mm-hmm. 2 granddaughters, 6 daughters, and a girl dog. And the best advice that I can give you is always have a good hiding place.
That's funny.
Well, congratulations. I know you guys have a beautiful family. I know that's a driver and really a reason why you do what you do. Lenika, I heard you say, 6 figures in your first year. Obviously you came from a background, education, corporate. You obviously must have brought some skills to that starting line.
Yes.
But that's not a normal start for most individuals. I'm curious if you kind of fast forward your whole journey from that amazing starting point to where you guys are today. Are there any periods that weren't all highs? Were there any periods where it wasn't the right out of the gates? Are there any kind of failure or setback seasons you went through that you ended up learning a lot from and that you're willing to share?
Absolutely. So we, in that particular company that we were in at a time where we hit the 6 figures and we went on to build $1 million enterprise in that particular company, we felt like it wasn't as stable. It grew so fast, right? And so the infrastructure could have used some adjusting, some work. And so what happened is, as fast as it went up, it crumbled just as fast. And so we found ourselves, unfortunately, in a position outside of our span of control that we hadn't, anticipate what happened. And so we ended up having to pull away, and we started to seek other things out. And we are also a man and a woman of faith. And so as we were seeking God as to, okay, what are we going to do here? Like, what is next, right? I remember so specifically, the Lord telling us, like, I'm not finished with you in this industry. So no matter what happened, you guys did it before, you can do it again. You have the skill set. So the same skill set that you had to build this, take that same skill set, which really a lot of it does have to do with our ability to connect with people and to really inspire and to move people and to motivate people, right? Like when you're thinking about it, like from a standpoint of what's your superpower, right? That has always been Gregg. And I think too, because we got so many kids, like, it's like, we have taught them, you get along, you're your sister's keeper, bring all of your gifts to the table, those types of things. But we ended up, unfortunately, getting on food stamps. So Gregg had retired from the job. We were both now building a business, traveling, speaking, coaching teams all around, particularly the US, doing very good. And then the rug was slipped up under us. And we ended up getting on food stamps. And it was during that time where it was a lot of soul searching, inner looking within, and seeing what can we still do to change our lives. And of course, it was this industry. And so we did seek, and we ended up in a couple of companies, right? Two in particularly, where it didn't move as fast as we thought it should be, but we still learned in the process. And one of the main things was, it's again, those relationships and nurturing those relationships and keeping those relationships intact, right? And then we were then offered to become a part of a founding families that will help launch another company into the marketplace. And Greg and I, we agreed to do it. We were like, all right, we know what we got to do. Let's roll up our sleeves and do it. And we came together with two other families, and we just made it happen. And that is the company that we were with over a 10-year span, where we helped to take that company to see billions in sales. And of course, it was that company that really it created like a substantial amount of financial security for us. We were blessed beyond measure. And so the main thing that I want to say before I kind of back away from this, which you're asking, is the skill set that we had. We had to really look to see, okay, what are we bringing? Who are we? What is our identity in this thing? And what is our strong points? What are our strengths, right? And it really has had to do, and even now, the ability to connect with people on an emotional basis, but also the ability to help lead, guide people where they can become better people. And when you are better, you produce, you show up, you make the sales, you recruit the people. Does that make sense? So that was kind of like, it was think about and looking back to a lot of what connected. Then when we hit rock bottom, when we had to go, and then even now in this career time in our life.
I appreciate you sharing that. I didn't know those parts of your story, but it's an interesting journey. And as you're kind of sharing your experience, I had this visual of this rocket of success that most people would deem in the first 12 months. I mean, that's an amazing accomplishment. And then shortly thereafter, you explain this season of food stamps, to use your words, but really challenging, hard times. And then through that, a decade run. And then it sounds like, if I'm hearing it correctly, then maybe another kind of dip season. So kind of that true entrepreneurial roller coaster. I'm curious if, and I'm sure if we really were to unpack the whole timeline, there's probably a lot of little dips in between. I'm curious, when you're in those moments, whether it's that food stamp season, you had the high, then boom, all of a sudden, you're in a different place, or after the decade run, and then you're in this kind of reinvention season. What have you learned in those two places that kept you going, or kept you here, or kept you from not going back to, like, say, the traditional path or the degree or that corporate America? What kept you aligned on your direct selling business in those moments?
So Lenika described to you some of our ups and downs in this industry. And we're strong believers that as you're on a growth path, right, every level, there's a certain skill set that you have to take at every level, but you have to learn and understand to maintain yourself at that level. So even as we went through a valley experience, there was some things that we had to understand in that. The handling the money, what to do with the money when you get the money, and different things like that. So even when Lenika talked about us going through, we like to call it our valley experience in this industry, when we were up so high and then all of a sudden we were way down low, even lower than where we were before this industry ever came in our life. But it was through that process that we came to an understanding of how we wanted to do this when we got back. See, we didn't go and question if we got back. We said when we got back, right, to those income levels. And, at that time, I did end up going back to a traditional job because it was one of the quickest things that I knew where I could get money into our household. Mm-hmm. But in that, we also saw differently, because we always believed there was a different way that you can get this thing done without working a traditional 9 to 5. Mm-hmm. So we fell back on that because, I'm college educated as well, degree in industrial technology, and was able to do very well in my field. So reverted back to that real quick and was blessed to actually find something in that. But in that, we also knew the other side of this. So we started our search for something that actually had the legs to be able to grow, even to the magnitude at which we knew that we could take this in this industry. So in that, she started with another company. I was working a job. We were working together after I got off the job, and was able to actually transition from that job back into this industry full time, and have been pretty much full time in this industry
for
ever
10
since.
years. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Gregg, I so appreciate you sharing that and being so open and vulnerable, and it's interesting, and I'm going to go deep here because I know you lived it. And I also have been around this game long enough that I know if anybody, right, stays with any path long enough, they're going to find themselves in a similar valley situation. One of the things I've seen, and you guys tell me in your experience, if you've gone through this or seen the same thing with who you're leading, you get to a mountaintop, and that's relative. Everybody's mountaintop might be a different height, but it's a mountaintop. And after a mountaintop, usually there's going to be a valley season. And that valley season is relative, depending on the journey. Some valleys are deeper than other valleys. But one thing I've observed, and I'm curious your guys' perspective, is sometimes when we go from that first mountaintop to that first valley, we get so fixated on the fall. We were up here, and now we're here. And all we can focus on is we went from this number, dollar, lifestyle, feeling to where we're at. And it's like we forget about where we came from. And I've seen a lot of leaders not being able to do what you did, not be able to retrench, maybe have to go generate an income to start a new run. I'm curious, two things. One, if you've seen that, and some people just get stuck in the valley, but you guys made it through twice. What makes you different? What's the mindset, or what did you do to not get stuck in the fall mentality and be willing to say, hey, we're going to set a new run? I'm curious.
Yeah, so I would say, of course, our faith, that played such a great part of it. If I may also be a little transparent, that it may help someone else who may be right now in a low place after having seen success, tangible success I'm talking about right there, because it wasn't easy every day to do it. And I remember back during the food stamp years, just hearing in my spirit the word self-sabotage. Now, this was a word, or shall I say 2 words, right, that I wasn't accustomed hearing. Now we're hearing so much about self-sabotage. But at that time, no coach, nobody had told me, but it was the Holy Spirit that told me that. And I'm like, wait a minute, what is this about? And I began to look up the definition of self-sabotage, and I was like, oh my God, these characteristics I have. So what God began to show me is that, where I want to take you and Gregg to, and what you guys have been through, it really is not a lot about you, but you really being an example to show other people that if you do build wealth, or if you do have success and you lose it all, you can still do it again. And so he was like, really impressing upon me, like, I need you to get your mind together. So there had to have been such a paradigm shift, shift in our personal, right? In our personal mind and our personal heart. And also the ability that if you did it before, you can do it again. And so during that time, I came up with a quote, like, when we didn't have nothing, right? And we had 9 people in the household, because we were not only taking care of our daughters, but my niece as well, because my sister had been through some things. So now we have all of these people in the household. And I came up with this quote, and I really need you all, for those of you who are listening to this section right here, to think about it, right? Because everything that you do, your response is your responsibility, all right? Not your success line, even your team. Like, it is contingent upon you moving, you taking action, you shifting, you changing, okay? So I came up with this quote that says, do not allow your down place to define you. I'm not the down place, right? Though I'm in it, this is not me. I'm created more than this, right? And then I came up with this quote that says, focus on the promise and not the pain. And so it was during that time where we literally had to walk that thing out. When now I'm not going to continue to focus on the failure or what I deem even as failure, really, because it's all a part of the process, or the money not being in the bank when before I was seeing money, all right, being able to do whatever I wanted to do. I'm not focusing on that. I'm not focusing on all of these bills. Yeah, I'm going to pay the bills, but that's not going to be my focus. I'm not focusing on the wilderness, but I am focusing on the promise. What can change? What is going to be better? That's what I'm focusing on. And so I came up with the quote, focus on the promise and not the pain, because the more you focus on the pain, that is what is going to be attracted to you. And a lot of leaders, or those who even built success, right, in any industry, when they hit those times, that is why what is going to set you apart from the other person that also went through a major storm in their life, that what makes the people bounce back that you do see bounce back. It is all personal. It is all personal. It is in your heart and also in your mind. And so your ability to also shift very quickly, right, when you find yourself in a low place or wilderness or valley or whatever it is that you may call it, a place that nobody really wants, okay, that type of place, your ability to be able to shift quickly will also, like, that's contingent upon your ability for you to be able to come out.
Life is about transitions, right? You always transition from season to season, level to level, those different things. But I think for a lot of people, they're not present in mind enough to be aware of the different shifts and the different seasons that they go through. So even for us, you know, when we went through that first valley experience that we went through, I would be lying if I said, wait a minute, we didn't get worried, right?
Right.
Because even with transitions, everybody go through transitions differently. You know, and I'm speaking for myself. Typically, I'll go through a transition pretty quick, but it's not just me; it's Lenika too. So I go through a transition pretty quick,
You're right.
and I become very decisive about what I need to do to keep this train moving forward. Where Lenika, it took a little bit longer to come through that, you know, because even in that time we went through that valley experience, I also lost my father in that. And so I remember going home because now responsibility shifted. Me and my brother had to go home to actually help take care of things at home. And I can remember specifically, we were cutting grass out at the home place one day, and I was out there weed eating, and I'm just out there, I'm having a conversation. I'm having a conversation with God, like, God, why are we here? You know, we're too smart to be here. We got too many things going on to be at this place where financially we had to get assistance, right? And quickly, even at that point, I went through a process in my mind where I made a decision exactly what I'm gonna do to start the path to get out of this. And that was when I went back to a traditional job to start building back up the income levels that we needed, right? So part of that is taking ownership.
Right.
And this is where I think a lot of people fail at. They don't take ownership of the moment. They don't take the ownership of what they went through or what they're currently going through. But in that taking ownership, it gets here in the heart. And when it gets here in the heart and you take that ownership to start planning that path out of it, then you can start walking it out. But people will get stuck. As you said before, they'll get stuck I was at this income level. I was doing this, and they become stuck there and they can't get past that. And that's really what happens a lot in life.
Mm-hmm.
People will get arrested development, if you will. Arrested development, where even because everything is about the development. We'll always become it. That's why it's always level to level, season to season.
That's right.
But we've got to learn and reflect back on the previous season. So now when it even comes down to those transition moments where it's time for me to go to another level in another season, I'm reflecting back on who I was, what I learned, who am I to my core. And those are the qualities and characteristics that I bring with me to that next level. I look back and I was like, okay, we did it in this season, but how did we do it?
Right.
That's a missing thing. How did we do it? And so now I bring those qualities of how we did it with me to the next season, and we start building on that.
Mm-hmm.
I love how you just gave us tools. You said take ownership. When you were talking, Greg, I wrote down the word like, we got to accept it. Doesn't mean we got to like it. Doesn't mean we got to agree with it. Doesn't mean we don't want to change moving forward, but we got to take ownership, in your words, and accept what we go through. And then Lenika, I love that. Focus on the promise, not the pain, where we're going, not where we are. And in that, you said it wasn't about you. It wasn't about where you were or where you are. It's about the impact you're able to make. So I think all of these are great tools when we're in the valley seasons. So thank you for that. I am a believer that it's in the valley that is the value. And like you guys are saying, it's what prepares you for what's next. I'm going to shift the question, though. This is weird because we can all go deeper on valleys. And I think it's important. But I'm going to go the other direction. This might be a weird question. No, we share a common friend and mentor in John Maxwell. I know you guys work closely with him. I've worked closely with him for a number of years, a while back. And I remember one time he said something to me that always got stuck. He said, Blake, be careful in momentum because momentum covers a lot of mud. So my question for you guys is the not valley season. So when you go back to that first year of the meteoric rise or the 10-year rise, like when things are working, when you're on the high, when like, okay, momentum is here. What advice and perspective do you give now to people in this industry that are in the momentum season? What's the wisdom there?
I can tell you, this is something firsthand we learned, right? And this was when we started in this industry and it just took off, it soared. Right. So you're talking about that meteoric rise, right? But a lot of growth can be crushing too when it comes too much too fast. So even when you're talking about in that momentum season, always being aware that I love how John Maxwell put that, is covering up a lot of the mud.
That's so good.
So even today, as we're building, right? One thing that we know and we've done enough reflection back to understand is you've got to make sure you're building with a solid foundation. Your foundation has to be so solid. And so now you have to decide what is that foundation. Just like with every other company, you have different levels and different things in every company, but you've got to make sure that your base is what is that level in that business that there's going to be the greatest proportion of people, right? You've got to make sure that you're taking care of that base of people. Everything above that is going to really take care of itself. But you've got to take care of that base of people. What is it that this base of people need? What is it that will put money in their pocket or make them, or how do they define success? What is it that they need in order for them to remain happy? So even as we've built this thing a few different times, even as we're going forward with it, even right now, we're making sure that our structure, our cadence, if you will, it caters to that base. And a lot of times in this industry, people get lost in all the high levels and the high ranks and, achieving this. Of course, they're there because you want people to achieve it. But knowing the dynamics of this industry, you've got to keep that base at a good place where they're happy and everything is moving. So even from a culture standpoint, it got to be a very given culture where people feel welcome, people feel happy. For the most part, people working 9 to 5s, they deal with a lot of the mess every single day working a 9 to 5. Now you want them to get off of a 9 to 5 and work this opportunity. But then over here, this opportunity from a culture standpoint, it's tore up. Right. Then they're not going to hang around because they deal with enough of that, right? So you got to make sure it's a good culture. You got to make sure people feel good. You got to make sure you're taking care of that base. You got to make sure that from a foundational standpoint, it's solid for you to start building up on.
A lot of times, even in this industry, we can start believing our own hype, all right? Mm-hmm. Ego can get involved. So that's one of the things that I would just caution anyone with is just that. Yeah. Like, don't get so high up on a horse, okay? Because just as business change and companies shift and, transitions are made and sometimes you have to pivot, right? The same thing with momentum. A lot of times when you're in momentum, things happen, but you're not preparing for the long haul, or the long. You're not looking ahead, and that can also really affect. It can also affect leaders. Mm-hmm. And so I would just encourage all of us, like when you are in a season of great growth and momentum, even if it's just a few years, like keep yourself grounded, stay humble. You don't know everything. You still have to learn. Talk to somebody to say, okay, we have this, so how do we keep it, right? So that we're not also squandering things, which is, that happens a lot in our industry as well. But then too, look at the people. Who can I help even more? How can I continue to serve in all of this? So,
but also
you laughing,
but also
it's such sound advice, and I'm laughing because I know it's true. I know it's kind of a weird question to throw at you guys because the values and the valleys. When you're in the valley, you build the muscle, you shift the belief, all the things you guys are telling. But when you're in enough valleys and enough mountaintops, you also realize there's stuff you got to remember when you're in momentum. Now, for those of you guys listening, we're not trying to scare you. Like, momentum is fun. You want to experience it. We're just trying to impart the wisdom that when you go into those seasons, I love how you said, Lenika, we got to stay grounded. There's things to be aware of so you can set yourself up for the future. I'm also hearing in your guys' example, it seems like financial literacy, financial intelligence, maybe even more so than I hear from most leaders. Go deeper there. Is that part of that foundation? Do you guys have certain principles when it comes to finances that you're teaching and training? I'd love for you to go down that direction and something to be valued for everybody that's listening.
Yeah, absolutely. That goes back to our dating phase, right? We had a lot of those commonalities even in the dating phase where we wanted to live that debt-free lifestyle, and we were able to start living it 20 years after that, right? But it's even in making that money. I love this industry. I love what this industry can do. We always tell people we're on that constant hunt for that right place where we can really lay our head. But even in that search for that right place, you're going to run into some things maybe that, it is what it is, right? And this industry can be a little volatile sometimes too. I love this industry with all my heart, and I'm serious, but it can be volatile. So it's just like a professional athlete. They might be a professional athlete for a 3-4 year time span, but what's life after that, right? You may be up on a high where everything is high in momentum, you're making money, but all of a sudden the tides can change. Lenika mentioned the pandemic a while ago. When the pandemic came, it was outside circumstances, and it caused this industry to actually rocket ship across the board with a lot of different companies. But what if it did the opposite? What if it caused this industry to actually take a dip? Then who would be financially prepared for that dip? And these are the questions you ask yourself, just like any other industry. Are you financially prepared? Because even the Bible says, just like you're having the good seasons of harvest, you're going to have the down seasons as well. So you're always in a state of preparation to make sure that you're ready for when a down season may come. So even when it comes down to living a debt-free lifestyle for Lenika and I, we're living that lifestyle so we can really be building that legacy and that inheritance for those 6 kids and right now the 2 granddaughters, right? But we're always in a state of thinking about that. And that's even our vision, when we're even talking about big vision, is being able to leave that inheritance for them, right? Or leave that inheritance for our great grandkids, and make sure that from a place starting out, they didn't start out like we did, but they're starting out higher than we did.
And one thing that I would say, and we both would say, it is not about how much you make, but it is about how much you keep, and you are wise with it too. Like, you have to have a vision. You have to have a personal vision for your household, and don't allow anybody for that sake to deter you from your personal vision. And so, because Gregg and our vision was so strong in regards to debt freedom, when things shifted, when things changed, when things stabilized, when there were dips, we were good. Like, we were so good. Yeah.
Yeah. Even through this last transition, it wasn't, we didn't hiccup. Now, of course, we went like 2-3 months, right? We was just able to go through those few months and didn't have a hiccup, didn't have an issue. And then we, of course, started on this path again and been blessed again.
I'm so happy for you guys. I know what you're doing is absolutely phenomenal. And it's because of the experiences you're sharing, the shifts that you made, the foundations that you set. And it's sound advice for everybody listening. And it doesn't start when you hit the top of a plan or make a gajillion dollars. These principles, what you're hearing from these two is it starts now. It's foundational. So thank you guys for sharing. I'm going to go one step further in this whole finance, money, literacy conversation. And this might be a little controversial or taboo. We'll see where this goes. But
That's okay.
How's that for a setup? Multiple income streams. I had a guest on the show a few weeks ago that talked about the rise of the me's. I'd never heard that term, but multiple income individuals. And it's backed by data too. Like, the gig economy exploded. The creator economy has exploded. Today, the facts are people have multiple income streams into a household, more so than maybe the decades prior. What's your guys' take on this whole conversation of like multiple income streams? Because I know you got the financial literacy lens, but there's also the leadership lens of focus, what it really takes, all your eggs in one basket, or if you chase multiple rabbits, they both get away. What's the perspective you're giving your community and your team when this conversation comes up?
Let's see. Even that, Blake, that can go down a rabbit hole, right? and it is controversial, right? So we believe in multiple income streams, but when you're looking at this industry, you have to maintain a focus. I guess that's the good way I can put it. Right?
we believe, like, I wouldn't encourage people to build into direct sales companies. That's especially with team building, because it becomes so confusing.
So compensation plans are built different among different companies. When you're looking at a compensation plan and you're team building, you can never take that to the point of the highest heights it can go if you're dividing your field, your following. In other words, if I'm saying, my multiple income stream is I'm doing 5 network marketing companies, because we've seen people trying to do that. But what you're doing is you're taking your entire team and you're splitting their focus up 5 different ways. And it is just, you never make the income. You've got to be able to focus people in. That's that one income stream in this network marketing industry of direct sales, where people are very focused. And now you can take that to the higher heights where those income levels that you're seeing that people making, you can actually experience, right? And you can help a lot of other people experience that. But dividing it up like that, people will never get past those first few levels.
But we have multiple streams, we do. And I believe, though, is wisdom in it. We have our direct, we're in network marketing, but we're in one company. Like, we don't have a whole bunch of different companies, right? Then we have a coaching business. I sell books, right? That's 3 streams right there. We have investment pieces as well. We also, with our income that we were able to build in this space because of focus, we invested in real estate, right? So that's 5 streams right there that we're saying that we have. So we do believe in multiple streams. But here's the thing too, even about that, you can build, but so much when when you're focused. So so there has to be different seasons of intense focus, I personally believe, to be able to make anything that you're doing successful and grow. Because there's one thing that say, okay, I got multiple streams, but you got 5 things generating $10 like that. Like, okay, at some point in time, we're going to have to sit it down and figure out which one of these streams you're going to really, really work this thing so that it can also get some legs and run it with this. So I hope that answers your question and makes sense.
No, I did. I mean, it's what you guys are doing. It's how you're living. It's your philosophies. There's no right or wrong. And I had a feeling you guys would probably say something similar, which is why I asked the question. And I think it's important for people. It's important for people to hear this industry. It is for most people the secondary income stream, because most people they're working their traditional career job, and this new immersion of multiple streams is fueling people now saying, okay, I can start a side gig, a side hustle, and have a secondary income stream. And I love, Dr. Lenika, the way you said focus, because all of us, I've been doing this long, just like you guys. I've never seen anybody create tremendous success in any company or brand trying to do multiple things within this channel. And I think that's where the confusion is. It takes the focus, but you guys said it perfectly. Once you focus long enough to create a cash flow, yes, it opens the doors to now you can start that passion project, invest in that real estate, make that investment, and get there over time. And I think people just confuse that maybe sometimes. You've been in seasons where now you've been working together for a long time, which is a unique dynamic where you're both kind of actively in the business.
Yeah.
I'm just curious your guys' perspective on like time or the DMOs, the methods of operation in the seasons. Do you have any practices or principles? It can even be tactics on like how you look at time, how you divide roles between each other, how you make sure all your beautiful daughters get priority as your business. Just how have you guys approached just purely time or the methods of operation through the seasons you've been through?
Well, the first thing and I can address in that, Blake, is us working together. that becomes an interesting dynamic.
That's been very interesting. Yeah, because we're both leaders. It's strong.
We're both headstrong, and to layer another layer on top of us being headstrong, we're married.
Wait a minute, what you tell me to do? You ain't my mama, that kind of stuff we hear. Yeah. Here just a few hours ago. I'm like, okay, could you call this person and tell them such and such? While I'm like getting work done over here, he's like looking at me like, okay, really?
but how does it work? Because you got that in business and you got your household duties and your family duties. Like,
It takes a lot of grace, okay? Can we just say that, Blake? The word is grace. But one thing I will say this, because I definitely want the audience to hear this part. We have had to become very comfortable with each other gifts shining through, okay? So in our business, we are like, I'm the one that attracts people, okay? Mm-hmm. So in terms of the people coming in, I'm a recruiter, right? I'm going to get you. You're going to sign up today. But Gregg is very methodical and he's a strategist, right? And so we have had to learn how to flow with each other gifts and just like get out of the way when the other person is flowing. Okay, let me just get out of the way. Let me just shut my mouth. Let me just humble myself, right?
Which ain't easy all the time.
Right, but that has helped us tremendously in that. And so like when Gregg, he's a numbers guy, when he's teaching and training the team on numbers, like I am just out of the way. We may be still in a setting like this, but when I'm encouraging and motivating and pushing, like he doesn't, he's out of the way. And so we've had to learn how to do that. So that's one aspect.
Yeah. And I definitely have to agree 100% with that, and even in that, it would be remiss if we say we never bump heads, right? We bump heads, but in that we have that understanding. She's got her set of gifts. I have my set of gifts, and we have gifts that we have together, and we're able to flow in that and respect each other in the prospective gifts that we have. And we're able to go out there and dynamically do it like that, really. And this funny we're talking about this because we've also did some training with some people on this as well, as far as working together, as a husband and a wife, which again has its own dynamics. But we make it work. We do.
And one thing that I did want to, because I want to make sure that we got your question answered too, because you spoke on time, but then you also talk about like the daily mode of operation. And so one thing that we have not only taught, but we have lived by is even our daily mode of operation. And especially when you're new getting started or when you're new launching a team, like there has to be some foundational principles involved. And those foundation principles is one of our coaches, the late and great Mr. Fred Herzog, he said, you got to stay in phase one. And so this have also been something that Gregg and I personally have done. What did that mean? What does that mean for those of you who may be saying, okay, what is phase one? That is new people into your business, getting new customers, and then also new partners into your business. But you have to do that. And one thing that has even helped Gregg and I throughout the years is leading by example and staying in phase one during seasons of growth, during seasons where, high momentum, during low times. We have always done that. And that has been, I guess, a consistent mode of operation. Is just making sure that we're doing that. And that's foundational to anybody, no matter how long you've been in the industry, how long you've been in the game, whether you've just started out, whether you had some success, you're growing, or maybe even you are a leader. Like, when was the last time you recruited someone into your business? When was the last time you went out and got a customer? Like, that is so important. And that is something that we also not only talk to our team and show our team, but we also we do it because we're leading by example.
Yeah. And the last thing I even share with that is, and this goes back to something I heard a long time ago. Lenika and I, we do schedule out our time and do those types of things, to make sure that we are actually allotting what we need to allot for. But when you have something to do, it's not that you don't have the time, you're not taking the time. So you sit back now and you reflect back on how you spent your time over the last 24 hours. And a lot of times you're going to find space where you were really doing nothing or nothing productive. Right. So it's not that you don't have time. A lot of times it's that you're just not taking the time to do something.
I think it's so good. And you guys appear to do the dance beautifully. And the lessons that you're giving us, it applies to everybody. I mean, give grace. We all can give more grace to whether it be our partner or our spouse or the people we're working with, and recognize each other's gifts. And everybody does have unique, different, oftentimes, talents and gifts. And I love how you guys put each other and each other's gifts on and give each other grace. We all can learn from that. And Lenika, thank you for diving into the time, philosophy, and the DMOs. Let's go even a step further there. I mean, we're on a show called Shift. You've mentioned you guys have been through your own kind of shift seasons. I don't think it's a secret right now that like the world is in kind of a season of shift. Our industry is, many of our companies are, and therefore us as leaders are leading people through these seasons. What are you guys seeing today? Like with your vantage point, all your experience, all the mountaintops and the valleys, all the wounds, all the wisdom. What are the key shifts you're seeing today in the here and now building, especially as it relates to phase one activity, staying in activity? And how are you leading through and guiding your team to maximize the season that we're in?
Wow. Well, I will first say from an economic standpoint, a lot has changed out here with a lot of different people. So you've got to be dynamic enough where you can meet people where they're at. And you have to be able to show people a way in which they can come and do a business like this with us in direct sales. And they're able to now make that extra income, that part-time or even full-time income. The world is in a place now where people are really searching. The pandemic, the reason why the pandemic, people saw a lot of success then is because a lot of people were, it was like almost instant. They were home. A lot of people had to find a way to make some money. Right, at home. Right, they had to find a way to make money, and they were at home, and so they turned to this industry. A lot of people did. right? And so we saw that big uptick in production and everything in this industry. So now, even on today, because the pandemic changed so many things, but from an economic standpoint, people are not at those economic levels. That's a whole deep conversation, even within itself, about that. But now, what do I have to do? How do I have to adjust to be able to meet people where they're at? You know, whether it's comfort levels, whether it's fears or whatever it is, what adjustments do I have to make to be able to meet them where they're at and show them that they can be successful in this industry?
And one of the things that I would say that we did, which have proven to be very helpful during this season of our life, where we realized it was necessary, is that we meet daily with our team. Mm-hmm. Now, did we want to do it when we first start thinking, okay, this is necessary? No, not. We didn't. You know, to be honest, you know, who want to get up, you know, every day and really, you know, motivate, inspire, teach, and train like on a consistent basis. But we knew that it was necessary because there's some things that's happening. And I don't know if it did have to do with the pandemic, where it just seemed like a lot of people have lost their footing. People still need that touch point. They need connection. And I believe that those leaders that would be willing to sacrifice like on a consistent basis, I'm not saying that you got to do it every day like we're doing it, but I do believe that if you're able to touch and connect more, it's going to show up in your numbers. And so at the beginning of the year, we started doing it, and we started getting like 100 people on in the middle of the day, like on a consistent basis. And it has gotten sales going, volume going, ranks being generated, but they feel the love. They feel that you're there with them. They feel the support. They feel that they can do it. And so I would just say, if you're not connecting in this day and age, I don't care how many people that you're getting off of social media, because that's how I build a lot. You need to start doing it, and it is going to make a world of difference in your business. Mm-hmm. So that's my spiel on it, because people are more sensitive. People are not as trusting, and even in our industry, we got to be reminded of that. And so, whatever you can do to create that environment of trust. And also community, somebody got to do it. Somebody got to start it. That it'll affect your sales.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, I'm hearing that same thing, Lenika, from most of the leaders across the channel. I heard you say connection, community, trust. Yep. I haven't heard anybody else say that they've taken the initiative to do it on a daily basis, creating those touch points, which is awesome. So thank you for showing us the example you guys are setting. And that's something that everybody listening can immediately do, take steps to create more of that connection within their community. So I think that's a great suggestion. Before we go to closing thoughts, though, can we just do a rapid fire round? I'm asking you guys like 3 questions. First thing that comes to your mind, no right or wrong answer in one sentence. Can we do that?
Sure.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. There's 3 questions. I ask similar questions to most of the guests. It's around this concept of shift. And the reason the show is about shift is not just we're in a season of shift, we are, but it's really understanding the power that a single mind shift, a single belief shift it can have. Like the right shift at the right time can really change someone's life. You guys have shared many with us in our conversation already today. But if you were to distill down one significant shift, just a mindset shift, a perspective shift, let's go in your professional life for each of you. What would you say was one of the most significant shifts? You went from thinking one thing to something else, or telling yourself one thing to something else, that has led you to accomplish what you've accomplished today professionally.
That this industry is real. That was for me when we started. Yeah.
Same question personally. So for who you guys are today and all the valleys and all the moments and all the trials, what's been one mindset shift that you think has been most significant to allow you guys to become the people you are today?
Yeah, taking action.
That's going to be her answer, right?
Yeah, it's like, I'm not trying to figure everything out. We're just going to do it. So you got to take action.
Yeah. For me, it's knowing who you are, relying back on your gifts, talents that you have personally, and bringing those to the forefront and moving with them.
Okay, I love it. And last one's more kind of a visionary question. One of the things that's awesome about working with DSN is we do have the ability to reach so much of this amazing channel. So my question for you is, if you guys could snap your fingers right now and you had the power to give a belief shift, a mind shift to every single direct selling entrepreneur across the world, every company, every brand, every consultant, distributor, promoter, representative, affiliate that we call ourselves, you could snap your fingers and insert a single mind shift. What gift would you give everybody?
Wow. Well, I would give everybody a gift that you are the true product.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I would give everyone the gift to believe.
Beautiful. You guys, we've covered so much. This has been fun, number one, first and foremost. And your guys' energy. And I know, I hope all of you guys watch this on YouTube so you can see and you can feel. But we've covered so much on mindset. You guys have given us beliefs. You've taught us the perspective through all the seasons, the ups and the downs that we can bring with us in our journey. You've given us some specific tactics that we can do, whether it be in phase one recruiting or leading our team. Before we round out, is there anything else you guys want to leave us with, some closing thoughts maybe that we have covered or haven't covered before we round out today's conversation?
I would just like to just remind everyone, we hit on it a little bit, but everything starts with you. If you want to recruit that superstar, then be one. Everything starts with you. And it is a quote that I say often: if it is to be, then it is up to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the one thing I would leave everybody with is take a look back at your life and just understand, where is it that you want to go? What is your vision for your life? What direction are you going? Even whether it's company A, company B, company C, company D, your overall vision for your life overshadows all of that. Mm-hmm. And you use those companies or whatever company you're in as that vehicle to help you achieve that. So if you have not done so, define the vision for your life, your family's life, and that becomes your personal GPS to help you and guide you as you go along that path of life.
Gregg, Dr. Lenika, you guys are absolute lights. Congratulations on everything you have done, everything you're going to continue to do, the lives you're impacting. Thank you for time today and everything you've poured into us. And I know everybody listening out there, regardless of where you're at in your journey, there is something from today's conversation that is going to help you level up, elevate you, and move you forward. And remember that a shift really is a gift. And I know there are people you're connected with right now that can benefit from all of the wisdom that Gregg and Dr. Lenika gave to us today. So take the time to share the show. We're on all the places, shiftpodcast.com. You can find all the links. If you like to listen, we're on Audible, Spotify. I recommend watching. You got to see these shades of blue. You got to see this Pantone colors we nailed today on YouTube. Find us on YouTube and continue to share everything we're doing here as we continue to raise the tide across the channel. Thank you, Gregg. Thank you, Dr. Lenika. Thanks for the time today. You guys are absolute rock stars. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, Blake, for having us.